Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is LolaAjisafe here. We are going to be talking about something different today. I was, what was it the other day? It was yesterday. Premiering my video on, part 2 of course, Ready to Love, and someone in the comments had mentioned something about, what do you think are you going to talk about, Kevin Samuels saga. And I've been thinking about it. I've been working, like, of course, my shifts, I do nights, I do days. It just goes, they kind of roll up into one. So I've just come off a string of nights and I'll be back to days tomorrow. So I thought I'd take just a few moments just to organize my thoughts and give my 3 cents this time about Kevin Samuels. If you look through my little videography or little bio of videos, I have done a video on Kevin Samuels and his point of view. And in order to prepare for that live that I did with my brothers, I had gone through quite a few of his videos because I didn't just want to talk about, highlight clips that have been highlighted, the main clip that everybody's aware of, which I'll try and insert here. But I also wanted to listen to some of his views and make my own opinion. Usually when you get a clip can be taken out of context, and then you can make many meanings out of it, and you can set a different narrative depending on what part of the clip you put. So definitely I went through about 10 or 15 of his videos and even kind of read through the comments just to, who is Kevin Samuels was what I was looking for.
Kevin Samuels has built an entire platform, 1 million strong, predicated on the berating black women and asking them what their dress size is.
How long has Kevin Samuels been around for? How long have men been around for? It's not Kevin Samuels' point, it's a man's point. Well, aspects of Kevin Samuels' conversation which most of the men here do not agree with.
Like Coach said, Kevin Samuels is one man. But in order for his show to be what it is, there are those women, there's a demographic of women who are calling his show, who are seeking that validation.
All right, so the topic at hand really is, black men versus black men, but why should it be versus? I think the real story here is, can we just get along?
Oh, really, who is Kevin Samuels? So when I started my research, Kevin Samuels, 56-year-old male, I believe. Oh. He resides in one of my other hometowns, Atlanta. And for me, Kevin Samuels, is African-American man. He's a black man. He's 56, an older man. I know he'd been married twice, apparently has a child. Married and divorced twice. I'm not saying he's married now, at least what he disclosed. And I believe he first started off as a chemical engineer. I don't know how long he worked before he now went into, being an image consultant. And from an image consultant, stumbled onto YouTube probably 2015 and started, dabbling in videos. I don't know what he did then, but of course he started 2015. And what kind of blew him out the stratosphere and brought attention to him was when certain clips came out. The clip shows a young woman, a sister who, misguided. I want to use the term misguided because if you're going to somebody if you're going to a person to tell you who you are, but you don't know who that person is, then I would question you. So this young lady goes to him to get some advice of some sort, and he completely berates her. And of course that went, blew up. And of course, with the negative attention, he got positive followers. So just in a nutshell, what did Kevin Samuels believe? He believed that, just briefly from what he put out there and his videos and his speak, he felt that and it seemed that his vitriol was particularly directed to black women. I don't know who hurt him. My son always says, who hurt you? But he would have this point of view where he would say, if you're above 35, he had this soundtrack that would go with it, where there'll be like dust bunnies and wind blowing in like a desert. Like once you are 35, you are, a must-go item. You need to be discarded with. And he just had this derogatory way of talking about women, particularly black women. And particularly a woman a woman's had children, she's a certain age, what she's looking for, she needs to settle for whatever. So this lady he was talking to was, I want to say, in her mid or late 30s, had a kid, was otherwise, doing well for herself. And he told her in a nutshell that she was at best a 4, and that she needed to go settle for whatever she could get, because even though she was making money, heaven forbid, she would never be able to get herself a decent young man or a decent man with an equivalent income because she just didn't look right. So literally he reduced women to their dress size and how they looked. Not about the content of the character, not about their face. For him, a woman was merely a tool, something that was meant to be on his side. As far as he was concerned, in his 50s, he was going for someone in the 20s. So if you're above 35, then really you're a must-go gone item. Like you were just like, put the must-go. You need to be. They need to send you to a consignment store if you were over 35. And so that was, the main thing we heard from him. But also, he also said some other things. I'd seen some videos where he was talking to this gentleman, also a black man as well, who was, a little overweight, and he just kind of berated him. And I mean, he went in a little bit, but what he said to the guy at the time wasn't a lie, but it seemed that his delivery was a little harsh. And so I watched more videos of him delivering message, particularly to guys. And what I would say for Kevin Samuels is, I wouldn't call him, they call him image consultant, lifestyle coach, relationship guru. I won't call him a relationship guru, but I would definitely say he would do great as a mentor for men who required some encouragement. Because men a man who is shy, can't talk to women, then he would be the great force that a man would need. So I think his lane was mentoring men who lacked confidence. That's where his lane was. But he would in order for fireworks to get attention, get a following, he always tend to step out of his lane. And I won't say that the things he said he did make a lot of sense, but the way he delivered it, one, and then two, if you think about it, a broken clock is correct at least twice a day. A broken clock is correct twice a day, and if the battery kicks in, it might fix up. And so, not to say I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So he did make some sense at times, but the thing is, I've always said that you can literally speak your mind and say anything, but it's in how you deliver it and how you say it. And he took pride in being harsh in his delivery. And yes, did he deliver messages to both men and women? Yes, he did. But from my observation and from my research of watching those videos when I prepped for my last live early this year, he was more harsh with women. He would shut them down. He would berate them. He was completely disrespectful. If you want to call yourself a coach, the coaching style is, I don't know, it's almost like this Stockholm syndrome. The women who would call into his show knew what they were going to have, but they would still get it. Like he just wasn't listening. It's one thing to sit with a coach who will listen to what you're saying and then say, okay, no. For the most part, every time I heard him talk to women, he already had his idea, and anything they said made no sense to him. And if anybody had anything against what he believed, he suddenly became very combative. I won't even use the word aggressive. He became very combative with the person on his show. These are the people that made him, but he became very combative with them. But the truth is, even with all of that, in the comments of his videos, you saw both men and women praising him. Now, I would say, in my opinion, a lot of the men that were strong followers of Kevin Samuels simply liked him because he said what they didn't dare say. That was it. Like, there was time, if I think of the title of the video, I said was, Kevin Samuels the face for misogyny? Was he the face of disenfranchised males who felt they've been looked down on, for certain things that women weren't checking for them, so of course they wanted payback. So they see a man who appears somewhat fairly attractive, physically attractive from what I understand. They say he was 6'2", I don't know, because I only saw him on a YouTube screen. Definitely well groomed, always wore suits, presented his package well. He was an image consultant, so he knew how to put that out there. So for the disenfranchised males who felt looked down on, the ones who, if they felt people looked down on them because they were short, because they were overweight, because they didn't make money, they felt like, okay, this was their voice, and he was speaking to all those women who said no to them. So he definitely had a huge following, because there are a huge following of disenfranchised males. Because if you look at it now, let me only talk about black people, because I'm sure he had other followers. But if I talk about black men in particular, you talk about black men and you talk about black women. If you look at the percentages now, you look into colleges, my med school class, for example, for every black man, there are probably 5 black women. So in terms of success and education, you will see a higher number of successful, educated black women. So some of those black men who aren't as educated or feel like they've been looked down on because they didn't meet the quota or whatever it was, have just looked at successful black women as almost like it's a slur word. Like the reason why when you see a successful black woman who's single, the reason why she's single is because she's successful. She has a bad character. She has bad traits. She does bad things. That's the assumption. No questions asked. Nothing else. It's just the assumption. So when Kevin Samuels was pushing that message, people were really gunning for that. Yes, yeah, we found our leader. Ta-da! But the truth is, I felt like his view on a lot of issues were myopic. Did he make some sense sometimes? Yes, he did. He did make some sense sometimes. There's nothing wrong with, in my opinion, if you're making money as a woman, a certain amount of money, your income is a certain amount of income, you're doing well. I'm not saying that you can't go date someone who doesn't make as much as you. No, but there's certain traits you need to look at. But he really wanted to relegate successful men just to, go over there and get anyone you can. But he would say, but in the flip side, the double standard was real. In the flip side, if you're a man of means with money, then you could pick whatever you wanted. But a woman of means, like, she needed to just manage and get whatever she could while she could. And that was the issue. Like, he was definitely one sided, and I question, I don't know how he was in his younger days, but was he one of these people who felt disenfranchised, felt ignored and neglected by the women he wanted but didn't want him? So all of a sudden he's now in a central global stage, and all of a sudden all that pain, because when people are a certain way, when they have a certain amount of aggression and certain things are going on, they're simply talking from pain. So I felt like a certain part of him was talking from pain, because when you looked at him review certain things, like there's one time he was reviewing Cocktails with the Queens. They had Ice Cube on, and they were trying to go back on because Ice Cube had made some meeting with Donald Trump, and so they're trying to make sense of it. And he didn't really stick with the issues that the ladies were talking about. He critiqued how they spoke, what they wore, their tone, and he was very derogatory. Shut up, this, that. Like, he wasn't sticking. Like, he talks about how when the women come on his show, they're not logical, they get emotional and they get lost. But he himself was not logical. When he was criticizing women at large, he wasn't very logical with it sometimes. Because when he critiqued this video of these Cocktails with the Queens, he really didn't. He got lost in how they were dressed, how they would speak. Like, he just seemed to be off the mark. So for me, Kevin Samuels represented a man who I feel maybe at some point in his life had felt disenfranchised, probably not seen by women or people that he looked up to or wanted to be around. And when he got the opportunity, he came back and decided to, Because if his goal was to coach, let's say if you wanted to be a coach for a woman, there's a way you will speak with someone to get their attention. You don't speak at them. You just don't speak down on them. You speak with them. You can correct with a soft tone, but that he was not interested in doing that. He appeared to be interested in just critiquing women. I did see him do shows with men where he was more understanding. He would gather facts. He did not exercise that same control with women. He had more control with men. He listened to men more. And that's why I said his field or his lane was coaching men. He had no business bringing women on a show, but that's what brought in, the ratings and the numbers. And so of course he became well known. In a short period of time, he hit 1 million subscribers. When I say a short period of time, he built a short period of time, not just saying it was overnight. Of course, it took a period of time, but there are people who've had YouTube channels way before 2015, and they're not at 300,000. They may not even be at 100,000. So I say hitting 1 million starting 2015 is still a short period of time. I'm not calling him an overnight success, but of course, he even said it. There was a time he was on a show with my good sis, Tasha K. And he did say to her that, initially when he was doing the work, it didn't really get any attention. But when he tweaked certain things and brought out that more abrasive side of him and saw what worked, and then it would blow. You see, he would have a show 3 times a week, and he would he would say, I'm not going to talk until I get X amount of likes. And if you don't do this, just very like his viewers, he was doing his viewers a favor. I would definitely say he definitely became more conceited and more full of himself. Okay, is that a crime? It's not a crime. But when you now, standing on a woman's back or women's backs to make your money, that's not commendable. That's not respectable. I can't respect that. There are proponents, for him and proponents against him. There's another view he had about the modern woman. Like, he would have critique for a woman who would go to college and make something of herself and have an income. It was almost like something he hated, because then, of course, you can't control her. But the thing is, at that time when I studied those things, when he talked about the modern woman, my thing was, it was the modern man that created the modern woman. The emergence or the entrance of the modern man now created the modern woman by default. But he would never look at that. He never looked at the plus and the minuses. He always seemed directed to one thing. And so that's when I began to read, because when I decided to study him, okay, is this guy just being unfairly criticized, or is what they're calling, is it what it is? By my research, what we call it is what it was. He was not a fair critic for women. He definitely excised double standards, and he definitely was operating from a place of, in my humble opinion, the pain he had related to women. And it came out in how he approached certain things and how he spoke. Just my opinion. So it's like, but of course, with this world, there are plus and minuses. As long as you're over there in your end of the world, you're not bothering me. I'm here over here in my end of the world. It is fine. So of course, there's a space for negative and positive. There's a space for light and dark. There's a space for everything. So you can begin to appreciate different things when they're off. So yeah, he had his lane, and he had his space, and he had his followers. So when we heard, I believe, who was the first person that brought it up? I don't believe who I saw in my stories. The first person where the rumor first started about it. So on May 5th, from about 7 p.m., just different whispers. And so I thought, because Kevin Samuels is this inflammatory character, that there might just be rumors flying around. But definitely by later on that evening was confirmed that Kevin Samuels, indeed, the personality known as Kevin Samuels, had died, had possibly had a heart attack, and confirmed his death. Now for me, when he was alive, he didn't affect how I was eating, he didn't affect my electricity, he didn't affect how I felt about myself. He was just a topic I'd come on to, and just okay, it's unfortunate that there's some misguided males that will hang on to some of the stuff he says and run with it. Like, they're living in their mama's basement, not really doing what they're meant to be doing, but they're pointing fingers at women who are doing things like, oh yeah, they're single because they don't know how to treat a man, or just different things, misguided views that they had, because they would pick piecemeal the things that Kevin Samuels would say. So when he died, I'm just like, oh well, no skin off my back, no loss to me. It didn't affect my day to day. I'm not going to say I didn't care, because he's a human being. So I don't have anything negative to say, but I definitely say that, the thing with his death, I believe there's somewhat of a vacuum. So now there are going to be more personalities who are going to try and come into that space to try and take up the subscribers he's had, because he had 1.4 million subscribers. That's a lot of people. He had a lot of influence, and a lot of people were listening, and a lot of people liked him. So the problem now is just with the misogyny and the discrimination he had against women or black women, is that now going to fade away? No. People have seen that there's a space for that. And so there are going to be more people like him that are going to try and, scavenge for those followers. Being that now that their Lord and Master has, had a FaceTime call with Jesus and gone onto the other side. And so another point of this is that, okay, now Kevin Samuels has passed. Rest in peace. He doesn't affect me because his message wasn't directed at me. He wasn't talking about me. He was talking about his people. Whoever his people are is who he was talking about. But so I have nothing negative to say now that he's dead. But what I have an issue with is some people who had issue with the fact that some people may have been relieved he was dead. However people want to express their pain, I can't dictate to them how they should express their pain, and you shouldn't either. It really, Some people rejoiced. Okay, was that good or bad? I mean, I do believe in the rest in peace. Like, you know what? Rest in peace. You're gone. You're gone. You know, like, you know, karma it comes in a circle. Did he die because of karma? I'm not saying he did, but he didn't get a reaction of sadness out of me because he, in my opinion, he surrounded himself by a lot of negativity that was in my opinion avoidable. Now, once again, I do believe that everybody delivers their message a different way. You can pick what you want. When you go for a buffet, you can pick what you want. Nobody's forcing you to pick something else. So, but for me, he wasn't something I'd pick. I did kind of research him to say, okay, is this guy really just, you know, what he's portrayed to be, or is he something else? When from our research, he was just this guy, like he making a living off of women's backs, criticizing women. That's how I feel. So I'm not here mourning him or feeling sad, and I don't think people should be. We're making more of it when we talk about how someone may be like, oh, good riddance. Is that something I would do? No. But am I going to now critique someone for doing that? No. That's how she's expressing herself. He really did surround himself by negativity. You know that saying, live by the sword, die by the sword? You lived by spewing out negative words, negative rhetoric towards women, and you were unapologetic about it. And it was not, some of it you believed, but a lot of it too was just your niche, your marketing. The same thing that some people do. Some of those things he would say would be to gear up his base. He had a base, and he would just want to strengthen up his case, get them all riled up. It was like he had the certain words and certain phrases he would use, like a dog whistle, and get these people reared up, ready to fight for him. So I personally don't think that, you know, we should be spending time talking about, now he's dead, we need to sing Kumbaya and sing his praises, because he didn't live like that. So how are we just going to, in his death, suddenly change what he lived by? You live and die by a certain code. And he's living and dying by the certain code. Guys, this is just my 3 cents. The guy lived by negativity. And so it's only to be expected that he's going to die by negativity. Negativity is settling. He didn't suddenly reform himself before he died. Am I saying that he should have died? I'm not saying he should have died, but he's dead anyway. And so if one is wondering, why he's getting all this negative backlash, it is what it is. When he was alive, there was negative backlash. So it would only be expected that would happen when he's dead. That's it, really. You know, I'd love to hear what you guys think. I definitely was thinking of doing another topic on him. I don't know if I'll shelve that or still kind of deal with it, because the principle is still there. And like I said, just because he's died doesn't mean that whole market, because he's created, I feel like he's not that he created a lane, but he's given voice to a lane that was probably underground but has now come up. And so they're going to be just watch that space. They're going to be, you know, some more false prophets coming out preaching, calling themselves, relationship experts, because he wasn't a relationship expert, because a lot of his views are one-sided. But before I go back, I just thought I should just highlight you. So guys, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and just I really want to know what you guys think. But those are my thoughts on the issue. Anyway, Lola, over and out.